The Roman Empire stands as one of the most influential civilizations in world history, spanning over 1,000 years, from the mythical founding of Rome in 753 BCE to the fall of Constantinople in 1453 CE. Rome transformed from a small city-state into a colossal empire that spanned continents and shaped the development of law, governance, warfare, and culture. Rome's rise was marked by military conquests, strategic alliances, and political innovation. Its fall, however, was the result of internal decay, external invasions, and administrative overreach. But even after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE, its influence persisted for centuries, especially through the Eastern Roman Empire, better known as the Byzantine Empire. This essay explores the full chronology of the Roman Empire, examining its origins, government systems, military triumphs, cultural achievements, crises, reforms, and eventual collapse. The goal is to provide a comprehensive understanding of how Origins and foundation of Rome, 753 to 509 BCE. According to legend, Rome was founded in 753 BCE by Romulus, the first king, who killed his brother Remus in a dispute over the city's founding. This myth reflects Rome's early values: strength, conquest, and destiny. Rome was originally a monarchy, ruled by a series of kings, some legendary, others possibly real, who laid the foundations of Roman religion, customs, and political institutions. Rome's early development was deeply influenced by the Etruscans, a powerful civilization in northern Italy. From the Etruscans, Romans inherited engineering knowledge, like building roads and sewers, religious practices, augury and divination, and even elements of governance. Tradition holds that Rome had 7 kings, beginning with Romulus and ending with Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud. Under these kings, the Roman Forum was built. The Senate began as an advisory council. The Roman Republic, 509 to 27 BCE. The Roman Republic was founded in 509 BCE after the expulsion of the last Roman king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. In place of monarchy, the Romans established a complex system of government characterized by checks and balances, separation of powers, and a mixture of aristocratic and democratic elements. This system would become a foundational model for future republics. Composed of around 300 men, mostly from the patrician class, served as the primary advisory body to the consuls and later to other magistrates. Passed laws, elected magistrates, and decided on war and peace. Centuriate Assembly, Comitia Centuriata, dominated by the wealthy, elected consuls and praetors. Tribal Assembly, Comitia Tributa, elected lower magistrates and passed laws. Praetors, judges and military commanders. Aediles, managed public games, buildings, and food supply. Quaestors, treasury officials. Censors, conducted the census and supervised public morals. Dictator, appointed during emergencies, held absolute power for 6 months. The 12 Tables, 451 to 450 BCE. Rome's first formal legal code, the 12 Tables, was a victory for transparency and the rule of law. It publicly displayed laws so all citizens could know their rights and duties. Social conflict, patricians versus plebeians. The Roman Republic, though celebrated for liberty and representation, was originally dominated by the patricians, the aristocratic families who claimed descent from the original senators appointed by Romulus. In contrast, the plebeians, commoners, had limited political rights and little access to wealth, power, or legal protection. This centuries-long class struggle between patricians and plebeians was marked by major reforms and compromises. 494 BCE, First Plebeian Secession. Plebeians withdrew from the city, threatening not to fight in wars unless granted representation. Result: creation of the tribunes of the plebs, officials who could veto decisions harmful to plebeians. 450 BCE, creation of the 12 tables, ensuring all laws were written and known. 367 BCE, Licinian Sextian laws opened the consulship to plebeians. 287 BCE, Lex Hortensia, laws passed by the plebeian council, Concilium Plebis, became binding on all citizens, including patricians, elected by plebeians, had sacrosanctity, could not be harmed, could veto actions by magistrates and senate, protected commoners from abuses of power. The eventual merging of elite plebeian families with patricians formed a new nobility class, or nobles, consolidating political control while appearing to share power. The Punic Wars, 264 to 146 BCE. The Punic Wars were a series of 3 wars fought between Rome and Carthage, the dominant maritime power in the Western Mediterranean. These conflicts determined the fate of Mediterranean supremacy. First Punic War, 264 to 241 BCE. Rome's first overseas war fought primarily over Sicily. Carthage had a powerful navy. Rome built a fleet from scratch and introduced the corvus, boarding bridge, to turn naval battles into infantry fights. After years of attritional warfare, Rome defeated Carthage, which ceded Sicily and paid a massive indemnity. Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BCE, led by the brilliant Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca, who crossed the Alps with elephants and inflicted devastating defeats on Rome. Battle of Trebia, 218 BCE. Lake Trasimene, 217 BCE. Cannae, 216 BCE. Rome's greatest military disaster. Rome eventually adapted, avoided direct battles with Hannibal, invaded Spain and North Africa under Scipio Africanus. Battle of Zama, 202 BCE. Hannibal was defeated, Carthage surrendered. Third Punic War, 149 to 146 BCE. Carthage, though weakened, was still a rival. Influential Roman senator Cato the Elder ended every speech with Carthago delenda est, Carthage must be destroyed. Rome besieged and destroyed Carthage completely. The city was burned, its population enslaved, and the territory made into the Roman province of Africa. Expansion of territory. The Republic's expansion was a combination of military conquest, alliances, and colonization. By the end of the Republic, Rome controlled nearly all lands surrounding the Mediterranean Sea, known as Mare Nostrum, our sea. By 264 BCE, Rome had subdued Etruscans, Latins, Samnites, and Greek colonies in southern Italy. Instead of full annexation, Rome often granted citizenship without voting rights, civitas sine suffragio, or established alliances. Ensuring loyalty and military support. Western Mediterranean. After the Punic Wars, Rome gained Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, Spain following Carthage's defeat, North Africa, province of Africa. Eastern Mediterranean involvement in the Hellenistic world after wars with Macedonia, Macedonian Wars. Seleucid Empire, Antiochus III defeated in 190 BCE. Greece and Pergamon later annexed. In 146 BCE, the same year as Carthage's fall, Corinth was destroyed. Greece became a Roman province. Conquered territories were organized into provinces, governed by Roman officials, usually ex-consuls or ex-praetors. Tax collection, law enforcement, and local governance were centralized under Roman authority. Provincial exploitation enriched Rome's elite and fueled further military campaigns. Crisis of the Roman Republic, 133 to 27 BCE. The late Roman Republic faced a series of political, social, and military crises that ultimately led to the collapse of republican institutions and the rise of autocratic rule under the emperors. Gracchi brothers, Reform and Rebellion, 133 to 121 BCE. Tiberius Gracchus, tribune in 133 BCE, proposed agrarian reform to redistribute land to poor citizens, aimed to revive the class of small Roman farmers, faced fierce opposition from the Senate and aristocracy, assassinated by a mob of senators and their supporters, first political violence in centuries. Gaius Gracchus, tribune in 123 to 122 BCE, broader reforms. Land redistribution, subsidized grain for the poor, reforms to weaken senatorial power, for example, transferring jury control to equities. He was also killed in a political riot. Legacy. Their deaths marked the beginning of political violence and breakdown of norms. Rise of Marius and Sulla, 107 to 78 BCE. Gaius Marius, elected consul 7 times, an unprecedented number, reformed the army, allowed landless citizens to enlist, created a professional army loyal to generals, not the state, defeated invading Germanic tribes, Cimbri and Teutones. Political rivalry and civil unrest marked his later years. Fought with Marius over command in the Mithridatic War. First Roman general to march on Rome with his own army, 88 BCE. Declared himself dictator, 82 BCE, with near absolute power. Carried out proscriptions, lists of enemies to be killed, and their property confiscated. Julius Caesar and the fall of the Republic, 49 to 44 BCE. Julius Caesar rose to fame through military victories in Gaul. Formed the first triumvirate with Pompey and Crassus, 60 BCE, a private alliance to control Roman politics. After Crassus's death and growing rivalry with Pompey, the alliance broke down. Caesar defied the Senate and marched on Rome, initiating civil war, defeated Pompey, and became dictator for life. On the Ides of March, Caesar was assassinated by senators, including Brutus and Cassius, who feared his growing power. Their hope of restoring the Republic failed. From Republic to Empire, Caesar's death plunged Rome into another civil war. His adopted heir, Octavian, Augustus, defeated rivals like Mark Antony and Cleopatra. In 27 BCE, Octavian became first emperor, marking the official end of the Republic and birth of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire begins 27 BCE to 96 CE. This era marks the transition from a turbulent republic to a centralized imperial monarchy under Augustus Caesar and his successors, ushering in an age of relative peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. Augustus Caesar and the Principate, 27 BCE to 14 CE. Octavian, grandnephew and adopted son of Julius Caesar, became the unchallenged ruler after defeating Mark Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium, 31 BCE. In 27 BCE, he accepted the title Augustus, meaning the revered one, from the Senate, marking the official start of the Roman Empire. Established the Principate, a political system that preserved the outward form of the Republic, but concentrated real power in the hands of the emperor, or princeps, first citizen. Reorganized the army and created a standing military. Initiated building projects, temples, roads, aqueducts, e.g. Arapacis. Reformed tax collection and governance of provinces. Promoted family values and moral legislation. Augustus's reign set the template for future emperors and ensured 40 years of stability after a century of civil wars. Pax Romana, 27 BCE to 180 CE, Latin for Roman peace, This was a period of internal stability, economic growth, and territorial expansion. Safe and well-maintained roads enabled trade across the empire. Roman law and citizenship expanded across provinces. Local elites cooperated with Roman administration. Flourishing of literature. Virgil, Horace, Ovid, art and monumental architecture, Colosseum, Pantheon. While not entirely without conflict, for example, rebellions, border skirmishes, the empire enjoyed unprecedented prosperity and order. Julio-Claudian dynasty, 27 BCE to 68 CE. The first imperial family, descended from Julius Caesar and Augustus through blood or adoption. Augustus, 27 BCE to 14 CE. The founder, longest reign of stability. Tiberius, 14 to 37 CE. Steady but unpopular, increased power of Praetorian Guard. Caligula, 37 to 41 CE. Known for tyranny, extravagance, and possible madness. Claudius, 41 to 54 CE. Expanded the empire into Britain. Competent administrator. Nero, 54 to 68 CE. Notorious for cruelty, persecution of Christians, and the Great Fire of Rome. Committed suicide, ending the dynasty. Or, the dynasty combined effective administration with growing signs of autocracy and instability. Flavian dynasty, 69 to 96 CE. After a brief civil war, year of the four emperors, 69 CE, Vespasian, a general, seized power and founded the Flavian line. Emperors, Vespasian, 69 to 79 CE, restored order, initiated construction of the Colosseum. Titus, 79 to 81 CE, popular, oversaw relief efforts after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, 79 CE. Domitian, 81 to 96 CE, strong ruler but autocratic, assassinated due to increasing tyranny. Flavian strengthened the imperial office, expanded Romanization of provinces, and invested heavily in public works. High Empire, 96 to 235 CE. This era marked the peak of Roman power, stability, and prosperity, characterized by capable leadership, territorial expansion, and flourishing culture. The empire stretched from Britain to Mesopotamia and was governed efficiently through a sophisticated administrative structure. The Five Good Emperors, 96 to 180 CE, a term coined by historian Edward Gibbon, referring to 5 successive emperors who ruled wisely, justly, and effectively, often choosing successors based on merit rather than heredity. Nerva, 96 to 98 CE, restored stability after Domitian's autocracy, adopted Trajan, setting a precedent for merit-based succession. Trajan, 98 to 117 CE, expanded the empire to its greatest territorial extent, including Dacia and parts of the Middle East, launched massive building programs, Trajan's Forum, Column, and Market. Known as Optimus Princeps, the best ruler, Hadrian, 117 to 138 CE, consolidated rather than expanded the empire, built Hadrian's Wall in Britain, reformed provincial administration, and strengthened borders. Antoninus Pius, 138-161 CE. Reign marked by peace and legal reforms, known for religious tolerance and economic stability. Marcus Aurelius, 161 to 180 CE. Philosopher king, author of Meditations, Stoic Reflections, fought major wars against Germanic tribes, Marcomannic Wars. His death marked the end of Pax Romana. This period is considered the golden age of the Roman Empire in terms of governance, peace, and prosperity. Built Hadrian's Wall in Britain, reformed provincial administration, and strengthened borders. Roman economy and administration. Economy: agriculture remained the backbone of the economy. Trade flourished across the Mediterranean, Mare Nostrum, and with Asia via the Silk Road. Common currency and vast road networks facilitated commerce. Imperial mines, taxes, and tributes enriched the state. Administration. Provinces were governed by procurators or governors answerable to the emperor. Separation of civil and military powers in provinces increased efficiency. Bureaucracy expanded, with equites, knightly class, managing finance and administration. Uniform taxation system, land and poll taxes, supported infrastructure and military. The administrative system allowed centralized control over a vast Roman culture, law, and architecture. Culture. Literature flourished. Tacitus, history. Juvenal, satire. Pliny the Younger, letters. Emphasis on Greek-style education. Rhetoric, philosophy, sciences. Public entertainment. Gladiator games, theater, chariot races, especially in the Circus Maximus. Law. Roman law reached its most refined form. Principles like innocent until proven guilty, equality before the law, and contract law became cornerstones. Jurists such as Ulpian and Gaius wrote influential legal texts. Law was gradually codified and influenced later legal systems in Europe and the West. Architecture. Mastery of arches, domes, and concrete led to monumental buildings. Pantheon. A temple with the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome. Aqueducts. Transported water over long distances. Bathhouses, amphitheaters, and temples spread Roman culture across the provinces. Cities featured a grid layout, forums, basilicas, and colon. Crisis of the 3rd century, 235 to 284 CE. A 50-year period of intense instability, marked by civil war, economic collapse, foreign invasions, and disease. The Roman Empire nearly disintegrated under the weight of internal and external pressures. Military anarchy, soldier emperors, began with the assassination of Emperor Severus Alexander in 235 CE, triggering a breakdown of central authority. The empire saw over 26 emperors in just 50 years. Many were generals proclaimed by their troops, often called the barracks emperors. Most emperors were killed in battle or murdered by rivals. Consequences: frequent civil wars weakened Rome's defenses and drained resources. Armies became more loyal to their commanders than the state. Legitimacy of the emperor eroded, and governance fractured. Political fragmentation threatened to tear the empire apart. Economic troubles, constant warfare, and political instability disrupted trade and agriculture. The empire resorted to debasement of coinage, leading to massive inflation. Taxation increased dramatically, burdening citizens and driving many into debt or dependency. Urban economies shrank. Rural self-sufficiency increased, weakening the market system. Key effects: collapse of confidence in currency, decline in urban life and infrastructure, rise of barter economy in some regions. Plague and invasions. Set background. Plague. A deadly epidemic, possibly smallpox or measles, known as the Plague of Cyprian, circa 249 to 262 CE, ravaged the population. Massive death toll, weakened the army, reduced workforce, and caused widespread fear. Viewed by some as divine punishment, leading to religious unrest and persecution of Christians. Invasions. Germanic tribes, e.g. Goths, Alemanni, breached Roman frontiers, sacked cities, and settled in Roman lands. Sassanid Empire, Persia, in the east dealt Rome crushing defeats. Emperor Valerian was captured alive by the Persian king Shapur I in 260 CE, a huge blow to Roman prestige. Border defenses stretched thin. Provinces like Gaul, Hispania, and Britain temporarily broke away, forming the Gallic Empire, 260 to 274 CE. Syria and Egypt formed the Palmyrene Empire under Queen Zenobia. Rome faced a multi-front crisis. The turning point in 270s and 280 CE, emperors like Aurelian, 270-275, began restoring order, reunified the empire, built Aurelian walls around Rome, and beat back invaders. Full recovery began under Diocletian, 284-305 CE, who ended the crisis with sweeping reforms, e.g., tetrarchy, administrative division, military restructuring. Reforms and division, 284 to 395 CE. This era marked Rome's attempt to recover from the crisis of the 3rd century. Through military, administrative, and religious reforms, the empire was transformed, divided, and spiritually reborn, laying the foundations for medieval Europe and Byzantium. Diocletian and the Tetrarchy, reigns 284 to 305 CE. Military and administrative reorganization, increased the size of the army, strengthened frontier defenses, split provinces into smaller units for better control, created dioceses, administrative groupings of provinces, introduced price controls, edict on maximum prices, and tax reform to curb inflation and stabilize the economy. Declared himself Dominus et Deus, Lord and God, emphasizing imperial authority. Agree with me, the Tetrarchy, rule of 4, divided the empire into 2 halves, each ruled by an Augustus and assisted by a Caesar. East, Diocletian Augustus and Galerius. West, Maximian Augustus and Constantius Chlorus. Each ruled a quarter of the empire, but worked in coordination. Goal: ensure smoother succession and rapid response to threats across the empire. Constantine and Christianity, 306 to 337 CE. Constantine emerged victorious from the chaos after the Tetrarchy, especially after defeating rival Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, 312 CE. Claimed divine support, reportedly seeing a Christian symbol in hoc signo vinces before battle. Christianity and the Church issued the Edict of Milan, 313 CE, with Licinius, granting religious tolerance to Christians across the empire, began favoring Christianity while still upholding pagan traditions. Called the Council of Nicaea, 325 CE, to unify Christian doctrine, e.g. Nicene Creed. Transformed Christianity from a persecuted faith into a powerful imperial religion. New capital, Constantinople. Founded a new imperial capital at Byzantium, renamed Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, in 330 CE. Located strategically between Europe and Asia, well-fortified and wealthy, became the political and cultural center of the Eastern Roman Empire for over. Split into Eastern and Western Roman empires, formal by 395 CE. Size and complexity of the empire made unified rule impractical. Cultural, economic, and political differences grew between East and West. Military threats on both fronts, Germanic tribes in the West, Persians in the East, required localized response. Permanent division, Theodosius I, 395 CE. Emperor Theodosius I, 379 to 395 CE, was the last to rule the United Roman Empire. Upon his death in 395 CE, he divided the empire permanently between his 2 sons. Honorius, Western Roman Empire, capital Ravenna, later Milan, Rome. Arcadius, Eastern Roman Empire, capital Constantinople. The Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire, would thrive for centuries. The Western Roman Empire would decline rapidly, falling in 476 CE. Fall of the Western Roman Empire, 395 to 476 CE. After centuries of dominance, the Western Roman Empire collapsed under a combination of internal decay and relentless external pressure, culminating in the deposition of the last emperor in 476 CE. Barbarian invasions. As Rome's borders weakened, Germanic tribes and nomadic peoples pushed into imperial territory. Visigoths, led by Alaric, sacked Rome in 410 CE, shocking the Roman world. Earlier, defeated the Romans at the Battle of Adrianople, 378 CE, killing Emperor Valens. Vandals crossed into North Africa and established a kingdom. Sacked Rome again in 455 CE. Huns, led by Attila, ravaged the Balkans and Gaul in the 440s to 450s. Rome avoided destruction through diplomacy in 452. Ostrogoths, Franks, Angles, Saxons seized various Roman provinces across Europe. By the mid-5th century, large parts of the West were no longer under Roman control. They were ruled by barbarian kingdoms. Diocletian and the Tetrarchy, rule 284 to 305 CE. Reforms by Diocletian, military and administrative reorganization, increased the size of the army, strengthened frontier defenses, split provinces into smaller units for better control, created dioceses, administrative groupings of provinces, introduced price controls, edict on maximum prices, and tax reform to curb inflation and stabilize the economy. Declared himself Dominus et Deus, Lord and God, emphasizing imperial authority. The Tetrarchy, rule of 4. Diocletian realized one emperor couldn't govern the vast empire effectively. Divided the empire into 2 halves, each ruled by an Augustus and assisted by a Caesar. East, Diocletian, Augustus, and Galerius, Caesar. West, Maximian, Augustus, and Constantius Chlorus, Caesar. Each ruled a quarter of the empire, but worked in coordination, tried to ensure smoother succession and rapid response to threats across the empire. The final act came when the Germanic general Odoacer deposed the last Western Roman emperor. Romulus Augustulus, a young figurehead emperor, was deposed in 476 CE. Odoacer declared himself king of Italy, sending the imperial regalia to the Eastern Emperor, Zeno, and effectively ending the Western Roman Empire. Why 476 CE? It is the traditional date used by historians to mark the end of ancient Rome in the West. No replacement emperor was appointed. Imperial rule ended in the West. The Eastern Roman, Byzantine Empire continued for nearly 1,000 more years. Legacy of the Fall. The fall marked the end of classical antiquity in Western Europe. Power shifted to barbarian kingdoms: Visigothic Spain, Frankish Gaul, Ostrogothic Italy. The Catholic Church emerged as a unifying force in the post-Roman West. The Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantium, preserved Roman laws, culture, and administration. Legacy of the Roman Empire. Though the Western Roman Empire fell in 476 CE, Rome's influence endured for centuries, shaping the foundations of modern Western civilization in law, governance, religion, culture, and beyond. Legal and political legacy. Roman law. Roman law became the foundation for many modern legal systems. Concepts such as innocent until proven guilty, property rights, legal contracts, and citizen equality before the law trace back to Roman jurisprudence. The Corpus Juris Civilis, body of civil law, compiled under Byzantine Emperor Justinian, 6th century CE, preserved and organized centuries of Roman legal tradition, influenced continental European law, e.g., French Code Napoleon, German civil law, and even international law. Political ideals. The Roman Republic inspired future systems of representative government. Checks and balances. Elected officials, consuls, senators, civic duty and public service. The founding fathers of the United States and many European Enlightenment thinkers looked to Rome as a model of republicanism. Rome laid the ideological foundations of Western governance and justice. Influence on religion, language, and architecture. Religion. Christianity, once persecuted under the Roman Empire, became its official religion under Emperor Theodosius I, 380 CE. The Church absorbed Roman structure. Bishops in major cities mirrored Roman administrative regions. The Pope emerged as a figure of central authority in the West, seated in Rome. Christianity's spread across Europe after the fall of Rome carried Roman cultural elements with it. Centuries later, Latin, the language of Rome, became the root of the Romance languages. Italian, French, and Romanian served as the language of education, law, science, and the church in Europe for centuries. Many English words, especially in law, medicine, and governance, derive from Latin. Architecture and engineering. Roman innovations continue to influence modern design. Arches, domes, aqueducts, concrete construction. Classical elements, columns, pediments, symmetry, widely used in Renaissance and neoclassical architecture. Public spaces, forums, amphitheaters, baths, roads, reflected in today's urban planning. Famous examples of Roman influence: U.S. Capitol Building, British Museum, Arc de Triomphe, and countless churches and cathedrals across Europe. All right, Roman culture became the template for the Renaissance and Western cultural revival. Eastern Roman, Byzantine continuation, 330 to 1453 CE. The Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, carried the Roman legacy for nearly 1,000 more years after the fall of the West. Capital, Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. Preserved Roman, law, Justinian Code, imperial bureaucracy, military organization, Christian orthodoxy. Byzantine contributions, blended Roman, Greek, and Christian traditions, influenced Orthodox Christianity, Slavic culture, Russian imperial ideology, and Islamic architecture. Fell in 1453 to the Ottoman Turks, but its cultural and religious legacy continued through Eastern Europe and the Orthodox world. The Byzantine Empire was the true heir to Rome, preserving Roman civilization during the Middle Ages.